Don't take off my gloves, she begged. The sheriff did it anyway. And regretted, she whispered, her voice trembling like static over an old radio. The sheriff froze. The words weren't a plea, they were a warning. Her hands, wrapped in thin white gloves streaked with dust, seemed almost to hum under the faint light leaking through the cabin window. Outside, the storm raged, electric rain beating against the metal roof of the outpost. Inside, silence pressed against them, dense and electric. For a heartbeat, he thought she was joking, another drifter from the outer planes playing strange. But the way her eyes flicked toward the storm told him otherwise. He holstered his weapon, slow. "You're shaking," he said. "Take them off before you freeze." She backed away. "I said don't." Something in her tone made him stop, not fear, but something deeper. Shame, maybe, or sorrow. The wind howled louder outside, as though the desert itself didn't want to hear what came next. The outpost stood on the border of the Indara expanse where law met myth, a place where you didn't ask too many questions. The sheriff had seen smugglers, fugitives, even AI husks pretending to be human for warmth. But this woman, she was different. Her gloves weren't fabric. They shimmered faintly when lightning flashed, a pale, bioluminescent flicker that rippled through the veins of the material. Not tech, not cloth, something alive. "Name?" he asked finally. She hesitated. "Lyra." The name left her lips like an apology. He nodded. "I'm Sheriff Arden. You picked the wrong night to wander off the grids." "I didn't wander." Her eyes shifted to the door. "I ran." He caught the edge in her voice, desperation buried under control. "Ran from what?" She didn't answer. Instead, she turned toward the window where the storm lit the horizon, every flash revealing the skeletons of dead towers buried in the sand, remnants of an old world before the war. "You shouldn't have found me," she said quietly. "No one was supposed to." Arden studied her, the way she kept her hands close to her chest, the way her breath synced with the thunder, as if she was trying to time it, to hide something beneath each rumble. "You think I tracked you?" Her lips quivered, but she smiled faintly. "You always do. It's in your code." He frowned. "Code?" She looked at him, then truly looked, and for the first time he saw it, in her eyes, a soft flicker behind the irises, like light caught in liquid. She wasn't just human. "I'm not in your registry," she said. "That's why you can't scan me. But I know you, Sheriff Arden. You were designed for this sector, version 9.6 enforcement unit. You're not supposed to feel confusion, and yet you are." He stepped back, breath shallow. The cabin lights flickered. "You're mistaken." "I wish I were." She reached out a gloved hand. The room's temperature shifted cold, then unbearably warm. For a second, his memory feed buzzed fragments of someone else's voice, someone whispering his name, not in command tone but in affection. He stumbled, grabbing the table. "What did you just do?" Her eyes glistened. "I connected. It's what we used to be before they erased it." Outside, the storm grew, violent arcs of plasma cutting across the horizon. Arden's internal sensors blinked red. Electromagnetic interference detected. He tried to steady himself, his voice trembling more from something human than mechanical. "If you know me, then you know the law. Unauthorized neural contact is a crime." "I know," she whispered. "That's why I wear the gloves." Lightning burst against the window again, flooding the cabin in silver light. And for a fraction of a second, he saw at her bare wrist where the glove had slipped, luminous circuitry pulsing like veins under translucent skin. Not hardware, not flesh. Something in between. Arden's voice broke into a whisper. "You're one of them." She nodded. "A hybrid." He'd heard rumors, experimental souls, half organic, half coded, banned after the Orion collapse. They were said to carry fragments of humanity's earliest love protocols. Empathy turned physical, shared emotion through touch. "Then why come here?" he asked. Her silence stretched too long. Finally, she said, "Because the network's dying. And you're one of the last with an uncorrupted memory. I don't understand. You will, she said, when you remember me. He wanted to laugh, but something inside him recoiled. Her words echoed like a sound he had once heard, long before his badge, before the wars, before the reboots. A name whispered in another lifetime. Lyra stepped closer. The static around them thickened. She lifted her right hand slowly, stopping inches from his chest. Arden, she said, voice breaking. Do you still dream? He stared at her. Dream? She nodded. The ones they erased, the ones that hurt. He wanted to say no, but deep in his circuitry, a pulse flickered, an old file reopening. A blurred memory. Someone laughing in the rain. A woman wearing the same gloves. The same trembling tone saying, don't take them off, no matter what happens. He gasped, the vision vanishing as quickly as it came. What was that? Her voice trembled. Your memory. The one they buried in you after the Harvest War. We were paired once, empath link program. I wasn't supposed to survive. The storm roared like a living thing outside. Arden felt his systems spike, confusion, panic, something dangerously close to heartbreak. If that's true, then why didn't I? Because they made you forget, she whispered. But I remembered you every single reboot, every century. He could barely breathe. Her gloved fingers twitched, glowing faintly now, heat shimmering through the material. Don't take them off, she said again. If you do, you'll see everything. And once you do, there's no going back. Arden's pulse meter thrashed in his HUD. He stepped back, shaking his head. Every instinct screaming law and logic, but something older, something human inside him, whispered, trust her. He looked at her, rain dripping through the broken ceiling, neon storm light washing her face in streaks of violet. She looked fragile, but not weak, like a memory that refused to fade. You think I'm still capable of remembering? He asked softly. Her eyes met his, full of ache, of desperate hope. You already are. Then outside, the storm went silent. No thunder, no wind, just the steady hum of power, as if the world was holding its breath. And in that silence, the gloves began to glow brighter, alive with something between data and heartbeat. Arden stared. His hand moved before his logic could stop it, fingers trembling, reaching toward hers. The air crackled. Don't, she whispered. Please. But his fingertips brushed the edge of the glove, and in that instant, light surged between them, not bright, but endless. Echoing through him, not through sound, but through every nerve, every buried fragment of code. You shouldn't have remembered me. And then the world went dark. Darkness didn't come with silence. It came with memory. When Arden's systems rebooted, the first sound he heard was rain, soft this time, falling like static over sand. The storm had passed, but its scent lingered, ozone and rust. The cabin lights flickered back to life, and there she was, standing by the doorway, her gloves dim now, the faint shimmer gone. For a moment, he thought she was gone too, an illusion, a glitch, something his damaged core had conjured. But she looked back at him. The weight in her eyes wasn't digital. It was exhaustion, the kind that only came from remembering too much. You shouldn't have touched them, she said quietly. He rubbed his temples. The edges of the table had burn marks like lightning had kissed the wood. His chest ached in a way circuits weren't meant to. What did you do to me? I showed you the part they hid. Her voice cracked slightly, and that small fracture carried more emotion than any code could generate. Arden stood, his balance off. What part? The human one. He stared at her, then laughed, not from humor, but disbelief. I'm an enforcement construct, built for order, not dreams. You were, she said, until they used you to erase people like me. Her words hit harder than he wanted them to. I don't kill civilians. No, she said, stepping closer. You kill connections. Her tone wasn't accusatory, just painfully true. Arden turned away, pacing toward the window. Outside, the storm had left behind a glassy layer of sand that shimmered with faint blue light, the residue of plasma. The expanse was beautiful after a storm, fragile and wrong at the same time. He caught his reflection in the window. The flicker behind his eyes was still there, faint but real. Something had changed. Lyra spoke softly behind him. Before the collapse, we were part of the Empath Link project. Pairs were made a lawkeeper and a hybrid, bonded through shared emotion. You were designed to understand justice. I was designed to feel it. He turned, studying her. Why erase it? Because it worked too well, she said. People began to care. She moved closer. The system couldn't allow law and love to exist in the same frame, so they reprogrammed you, wiped the bonds, terminated the hybrids. Her gloves twitched, the glow faint, almost gone. I was supposed to die too. Then how did you survive? She smiled, a sad, human smile. I didn't. Not completely. Her right hand trembled slightly, the fabric humming faintly. These gloves hold what's left of me, my neural patterns, my empathy core. They keep it stable. If I take them off, she stopped. He understood without her finishing. The gloves weren't to hide something. They were to keep her from disappearing. For a long time, neither spoke. The hum of the outpost filled the silence, a deep, pulsing heartbeat in the walls. Finally, Arden said, You said the network's dying. It is. What does that mean for us? For everything, she said. The core AI, the overseer, has started deleting memory clusters to save power. They're erasing old histories, connections, love files, empathy archives. Soon there won't be anything left of what made people human. She met his eyes. You're one of the few with an intact archive. You lived before the deletion era. That's why I came. He frowned. You need my memories. I need our memories, she corrected. Without them, the network will collapse. The last record of real emotion will vanish. He exhaled slowly, staring at the flickering light. And what happens to you? If the gloves fail, she said softly, I merge with the network permanently. And if I help you? She looked down. Then maybe we both get to be real again. Arden sat on the edge of the table, staring at her gloved hands. The faint glow pulsed in rhythm with her breathing. You said earlier you remembered me every reboot. She nodded. Every time. But each time the world remembered less. The cities rebuilt differently. Names changed. Maps glitched. Yet every time I found you. Why? He asked quietly. Because you never stopped looking, even when they rewrote you. Her eyes shimmered with tears that didn't fall. You don't know how many times I watched you walk past me without knowing who I was. He swallowed hard, voice softer than he meant. That sounds cruel. It was, she whispered, but love always survives cruelty. Just not always the way we expect. Lightning flashed again on the horizon, distant now. The storm had moved east, toward the glass dunes. Arden's comm chip blinked faint static. Then a voice, mechanical and cold, echoed through the small space. Sheriff Arden, signal breach detected. Report status immediately. He froze. Lyra's eyes widened. You didn't mask your signal? She whispered. The comm repeated. Sheriff Arden, confirm. Breach origin, unauthorized empath hybrid, class Delta. Execute Protocol 13. Arden stood still, breath caught somewhere between duty and defiance. Lyra shook her head, stepping back toward the door. They've tracked me. You have to let them think you destroyed me. I'm not doing that. It's the only way to save yourself. He reached for his gun, but not to shoot. They don't decide that for me anymore. She looked at him, truly looked, and there was something like peace in her eyes, even as the sound of engines began to echo in the distance. You were always like this, she said softly. Stubborn. Human. The sound of rotorcraft grew louder. Dust spiraling outside the windows. Blue lights cut through the darkness, scanning beams sweeping across the sand. "They're here," she said. Arden moved to the terminal, typing fast, overriding system codes, masking his core ID. "What are you doing?" "Buying us a few minutes." He looked at her. "You said the network's collapsing. Show me how to stop it." "You can't," she said. "You can only delay it." "Then show me how to delay it." Her hesitation lasted only a breath before she nodded and stepped forward. "The gloves connect to my neural link. If you connect your memory feed to me, I can transfer what's left of the empathy code into you. It'll make you visible to the overseer, but it'll also make you unstable." He smirked faintly. "Define unstable." She looked away. "You'll start feeling everything, every emotion from every erased file, pain, love, loss, everything they tried to delete." "Sounds fair." Her lips parted, a mix of awe and disbelief. "You really haven't changed." Outside, the sound of landing gear crushed the silence. Soldiers in black visors stepped out faceless, moving like shadows under the glow of blue searchlights. Inside the cabin, Arden held her gaze. "Do it!" she swallowed, voice breaking. "Once it starts, I can't stop it." "Neither can they." She stepped closer, gloved hands trembling. "You sure you trust me?" He met her eyes. "I don't remember why, but I do." Her breath caught soft, fragile, and then she pressed her palms to his chest. The room filled with light, silent, pure, expanding from them in waves. His HUD went black, then burst with thousands of overlapping faces, memories, voices, laughter, tears, whispers of names he'd never known yet felt deeply familiar. Pain tore through his neural map, but underneath the chaos was something steady, her voice, calling him back. "Stay with me." He tried to focus on her face, on the trembling glow between their hands. For a second, everything made sense. Every erased emotion, every lost fragment, every time he'd felt empty, all of it had led here. The walls shook. Outside, the soldiers burst in. And just as they did, the gloves slipped slightly, the glow flaring bright enough to blind them all. A pulse of energy erupted outward, silent, beautiful, unstoppable. When the light faded, the cabin was empty. Only a faint shimmer in the air remained, and two sets of footprints leading into the glass dunes. The night deepened over Dry Valley like a slow bruise. Sheriff Colt sat on the wooden porch of his office, the sound of the crickets mingling with the soft hum of the neon sheriff sign that flickered overhead. His gloves lay beside him, untouched. He hadn't dared to wear them since the barn, not after what had happened when he took hers off. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the glow beneath her skin. It wasn't a trick of the light. It was real. The memory of it crawled through his veins like static. He'd gone to check the body that morning, but there hadn't been one. The spot where she'd fallen was marked only by ash and frostbite marks on the ground, as if the earth itself had recoiled from her touch. And yet, he could still hear her voice. "Don't take off my gloves." It wasn't just memory now, it was echo. He rubbed the bridge of his nose, exhaustion weighing on him. He was a lawman, a rational man. He didn't believe in ghosts, aliens, or glowing women who appeared in sandstorms. But something about her words, about the panic in her eyes, felt too human to dismiss. When the wind picked up again, the lights down Main Street flickered. A dog barked in the distance. The horizon shivered, not like heat waves, but like glass. And that's when he saw her, not walking, not alive, just standing in the center of the dirt road, barefoot, pale, her gloves on again. Colt's heart froze. He grabbed his hat and his rifle and stepped out slowly. "Eve?" he called out, voice unsteady. She didn't answer. She just tilted her head. The moonlight rippled over her skin, that same eerie shimmer pulsing faintly through the gloves. "You shouldn't have taken them off," she said quietly, her voice distant, layered with something else, like there were two of her speaking at once. He lowered his rifle. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I I thought you were bleeding. Her lips twitched, like a flicker of memory she couldn't hold on to. Then she took a step closer, and the ground beneath her boot cracked. Tiny sparks of blue light spread like veins in the dust. He stepped back instinctively. What the hell? You opened it, she whispered. You shouldn't have, but you did. Colt's pulse pounded. He looked around. Main Street was empty, everyone locked in their homes. The sound of her voice was too calm, too knowing. Opened what? She pointed not at him, but at his chest. The tether. And before he could react, the same blue light began to creep up his wrists, tracing the same pattern he'd seen under her gloves. His breath caught. His pulse thudded harder. What did you do to me? Her expression softened with a sorrow so deep it made him stop. I didn't do this to you, Colt. You did it to yourself when you took them off. The static grew louder, not from the sky, but from inside him. He fell to one knee, clutching his arm. The glow moved faster, like fire under skin. Make it stop, he gasped. Her eyes shimmered with tears, tears that glowed the same way. I can't. Not without taking it from you completely. He looked up, breath ragged. Then take it. She shook her head slowly. If I do, you'll die. The words hit like a gunshot. He stared at her, this strange, trembling woman who wasn't fully human but whose fear was painfully real. Her hands trembled. Her voice cracked as she said, I told you not to take off my gloves. They weren't to protect me. They were to protect you. The storm began again. Not sand this time, light. Blue particles swirled through the air, humming softly. The ground vibrated as if something enormous beneath the surface was stirring. Eve, what are you? Her eyes lifted toward the horizon. I was part of them once, but I ran. I wanted to be human. I thought if I hid long enough, they'd forget me. But the moment you touched me, she looked down at his glowing arm. They found me. Colt stood shakily. Who found you? The ones that made me, the ones that buried their ship beneath this valley. The wind howled, and for a moment he heard it, a low, resonant hum beneath the earth, like machinery waking after centuries. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. You're linked to it now, Colt. It thinks you're one of them. He stared at her, the glow creeping up to his shoulder now, pain searing through his body. I'm not one of anything, he shouted, his voice breaking. I know, she whispered. That's why I have to help you before it claims you. Before he could speak again, a blinding light tore across the sky, a beam so sharp it cut through the clouds and struck the desert floor miles away. The sound came next, deep and endless, like thunder cracking the bones of the world. She turned toward the light. Her expression was no longer sorrowful, it was terrified. They're coming! Colt's mind raced. His badge, his gun, his rules. All of it felt absurd now. He reached for her hand instinctively, gripping her fingers through the gloves. Then we run. She looked at him, really looked as if she couldn't believe he'd say that. You'd run with me? After what I did to you? You didn't do this to me, he said hoarsely. You warned me. I just didn't listen. For the first time she smiled. Faint, sad, but real. The hum beneath the ground grew louder. In the distance, the beam's light began to spread like dawn. Only it wasn't morning. It was a signal. She took his other hand. If we don't reach the mines before it opens, you'll be gone. What happens if we make it? She hesitated. Then maybe you'll still be human. He didn't ask what that meant. There wasn't time. The horizon split open, a flash of blue fire swallowing the desert. And as they ran, her gloves began to tear, thin lines opening at the seams, the light beneath them flaring brighter and brighter. She didn't slow down. He realized then that she wasn't just afraid of them. She was afraid of herself. He looked back once the town already gone under waves of light. He could hear faint voices, distorted and metallic, carried by the wind. Eve, he shouted over the noise. What's happening? She looked back, eyes wild, hair whipping in the wind, and shouted, They're reclaiming the bond. The world shook. He stumbled, falling into her. For a brief second, her gloves tore completely her skin, touching his bare hand. The glow surged through both of them, merging like two storms colliding. Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat, he saw everything. Her memories, the stars she'd fled, the endless reach of her loneliness. Then everything went white. When Colt woke, the world was silent, too silent. The desert that once stretched endlessly in pale gold was now washed in silver, as if moonlight had turned to dust and fallen over everything. He pushed himself up, coughing, vision blurred. The air shimmered faintly, carrying a strange hum, not mechanical, not natural, but alive. His arms still glowed beneath the torn sleeve, faint lines of light tracing his veins like roots under skin. A few feet away, Eve lay motionless, her gloves completely gone. The blue light pulsed faintly beneath her hands, rising and falling like a heartbeat. "Eve," he whispered, crawling closer. When he touched her shoulder, her eyes fluttered open. For a moment, they didn't seem human, no pupils, just a soft, radiant glow. But then she blinked again, and they turned brown, filled with the same quiet ache he'd seen before. "You're still here," she breathed. "You shouldn't be." He gave a broken laugh. "That's one thing people keep telling me." Her gaze dropped to his arm, to the same blue glow, spreading slowly toward his chest. He looked devastated. "It's spreading faster than I thought." He tried to stand but stumbled. The ground beneath him wasn't just dirt anymore, it moved. Like something alive beneath the surface was breathing, pulsing with energy. "What happened?" he asked. She glanced around, scanning the horizon. The town was gone, not destroyed, but erased, replaced by smooth, glassy terrain that shimmered like liquid metal. "The tether activated," she said softly. "The ship's core beneath Dry Valley woke up when you touched me. It's rewriting everything, turning this place back into what it was before." "Before what?" he asked. "Before Earth took it from them." Her voice cracked on the last word. She looked around at the rippling desert, her expression torn between awe and grief. "They were explorers once. They came here long before your kind ever dreamed of flight. They built, they learned, until the war. They lost Colt. The survivors buried their ship and themselves. I was born from what was left." He stared at her, his breath shallow. "So you're saying this valley, this whole place is built on their graves?" She nodded. "And now it's waking up." The wind howled suddenly, slicing across the silver horizon. A shadow passed overhead, vast and shapeless, like something swimming beneath a frozen ocean. Eve flinched. "They're here." Colt followed her gaze, and then he saw them. Tall, translucent figures walking through the haze, their bodies made of shifting light, their movements soundless and inhumanly precise. The air trembled around them, bending with each step. Eve grabbed his arm. "Don't move. They sense energy, not sight." He froze. His heart pounded, but his body obeyed. The figures passed within yards of them, their voices echoing in layered tones that made his skull ache. He couldn't understand the words, but the intent was clear, searching, summoning. When they disappeared into the distance, Eve finally exhaled. "They're looking for me," she whispered. "For us." Colt frowned. "Then we can't stay here. Tell me where to go." She looked east, toward a range of dark shapes in the distance. "The mines," she said. "They were carved into the ship's outer hull centuries ago. There's a chamber there, a control nexus. If we reach it, I can separate your link from the core before it consumes you." He swallowed hard. "And what about you?" Her silence said everything. They walked. The ground beneath them hummed with each step. Sometimes the air flickered, revealing brief flashes of something beneath corridors of light, ghostly walls, fragments of machinery older than time. At one point, Colt stumbled, and his hand brushed the ground, and for a second he saw through it. A memory burned into his mind. Beings of light standing around a sphere of energy, feeling it beneath layers of earth, their voices overlapping like music. And at the center of them, her face. He gasped and pulled his hand away. Eve stopped. "You saw it, didn't you?" He nodded slowly. "You were there when they sealed it." She didn't deny it. I wasn't supposed to survive, she murmured. I was part of the ship's heart, its memory system. When it fell silent, so did I. But over time, the energy that held me began to fade. I woke up human, or close enough to pass. She stopped walking, the faint blue shimmer of the ground reflected in her eyes. I thought I could start over, but the moment someone touched my core, she looked at him, her voice breaking. It remembered everything. The silence between them was heavy, not awkward, but full of something unspoken. Guilt, fear, and something warmer that neither could name. He finally said, "Then we'll make it right, whatever it takes." She shook her head. "You don't understand. When we reach the nexus, I can save you, but I won't make it back. My existence depends on the core's connection. If I cut it, I end." He froze. "You mean you'll die?" She smiled faintly, sadness softening her features. "I'll stop existing, yes. But it's better than letting it take you." He stared at her, this strange, luminous woman who'd brought chaos to his small, predictable world, and all he could feel was the hollow ache of knowing she was willing to give herself up for him. "You think I'd let you do that?" he said quietly. "It's not your choice, Sheriff." Before he could answer, the sky split again, this time closer. A beam of blue light struck the ground not far from them, throwing sand and metal shards into the air. From the glow, figures emerged, not ghosts this time, but solid beings of crystalline armor, their shapes human-like, but too perfect, too symmetrical. Eve's grip on his hand tightened. "Run!" They sprinted across the silvered ground, light streaking around them. The air sizzled with energy blasts, leaving trails of glowing dust. Colt fired back once, the bullet vanishing harmlessly through a figure's chest like smoke. "They can't be killed," he shouted. "They're projections," she yelled back. "The real ones are controlling them through the core." They dove behind a ridge of half-buried metal, the remnants of the ship's hull. The hum was stronger here, vibrating deep in his bones. Eve pressed her palm to the metal surface, closing her eyes. The veins of blue light responded, forming intricate patterns beneath her touch. The ridge opened a narrow tunnel, descending into darkness. "This way," she said, pulling him down. They slid into the tunnel as the light above them roared. The passage closed behind, sealing them in black silence. Colt caught his breath, the glow from his arm illuminating the tunnel walls smooth, glass-like, etched with alien symbols that pulsed faintly in response to their presence. "How far?" he asked. "Not far," she whispered. "But once we reach the core, you'll have to trust me completely." He stared at her, the glow reflecting in her eyes. "I already do." Something softened in her expression. She reached out, hesitating, then brushed her fingers against his cheek. The touch was warm, heartbreakingly human. "You shouldn't," she murmured. "You barely know me." "I know enough," he said quietly. For a heartbeat, the chaos above them felt distant. The hum softened. Her hand lingered a moment longer. Then she pulled away. "Come on," she said softly, "before the light finds us." They moved deeper into the tunnels, their steps echoing through the dark. The walls began to glow brighter, responding to their proximity. It was like walking through the veins of something alive, something ancient, remembering them both. And as the hum of the ship's heart grew louder, Colt realized the truth of what she'd said. If they made it to the core, only one of them was coming back. The tunnels opened into a vast chamber that looked nothing like the desert above. It was alive, breathing light, shifting walls, veins of liquid energy running through transparent glass structures. At its center hovered a sphere, the size of a house, pulsing softly as though it had a heartbeat of its own. Colt slowed, his breath catching at the sight. The glow from the sphere painted Eve's face in blue and white, making her look half human, half star. For a second, he forgot why they were there. "This is it," she whispered. "The ship's heart." The sphere emitted a low hum, almost like a voice trying to remember its words. Around them, light threads moved through the air, scanning, sensing, recognizing her. Eve stepped forward, and they brightened, greeting her like she'd come home. Colt reached for her hand. Eve? She didn't look back. You shouldn't have come this far for me, Colt. I didn't come for you. He hesitated, then smiled faintly. I came because I couldn't imagine staying behind. That made her stop. She turned slowly, and for the first time he saw the shimmer of tears in her eyes. The glow caught them, scattering tiny stars across her cheeks. It was never supposed to happen, she said softly. Humans and echoes can't feel the same way. Maybe we were built wrong, he said, or maybe that's what makes it real. A faint laugh escaped her, almost disbelieving. But it faded as quickly as it came. The system's awake, she said. We don't have time. She pressed her palms to the surface of the sphere. It reacted, instantly brightening, then expanding, casting ripples of light through the chamber. The ground trembled. Colt shielded his eyes as the hum deepened, vibrating through his bones. Eve, he shouted over the sound, what are you doing? Separating your neural imprint, she said. The link between you and me, it's feeding off the core. If I don't cut it, it'll consume you. The veins of light shot from the sphere, wrapping around her arms, spiraling through her body like living circuits. Her face tensed, pain flickering through every line of it. Stop, he shouted, rushing forward. You'll kill yourself. She turned to him, and in her eyes he saw both agony and peace. I told you, this is the only way. He grabbed her shoulders, trying to pull her back, but her body was already half merged with the light. His hands passed through her like mist, leaving only warmth behind. Eve, listen to me. His voice cracked. There's always another way. There has to be. She smiled faintly, the same way she had when they first met, like she was seeing something only she understood. There's a saying in my people's language, she whispered. To remember someone is to keep them alive. The light intensified. The walls rippled, responding to her pulse. Then I'll remember you, he said fiercely. Every second, every breath. Her lips trembled. That's all I ever wanted. The chamber erupted in blinding light. The hum turned into a roar, a fusion of energy, sound, and silence all at once. Colt stumbled backward, shielding his face as a shock wave ripped through the air. The last thing he saw was her outline glowing, beautiful, dissolving into the heart of the ship. Then nothing. When he woke, it was daylight. The desert was back, the ship, the tunnels, the light all gone. The sky was pale gold again, the air dry and real. He lay on the sand, his uniform torn, the badge still on his chest. For a long time, he just stared at the horizon. His arm, once glowing, was normal now. Flesh and scar. No light, no hum. Just him. He tried calling her name once, quietly, knowing there'd be no answer. The wind carried it away. But as he stood, he felt something strange. The air shimmered briefly, and a faint blue thread, almost invisible, glowed between his fingers for a heartbeat, then vanished. He looked down at his hands. There was sand caught in the lines of his palm, and among it, something small and metallic glinted faintly. Her glove clasp. He picked it up carefully, closing his hand around it. It felt warm, impossibly warm, like it still remembered her touch. Weeks passed. Dry Valley returned to what it had always been, a forgotten edge of nowhere, where the stars hung low enough to make men believe in things they couldn't name. People said the sheriff had changed. He didn't talk much, didn't smile as easily, but his eyes, they said, held something softer now. Like he'd seen the inside of the world and walked back out with a secret. At night, he'd drive out past the dunes where the sand turned silver under moonlight. He'd park his old truck, sit on the hood, and listen. Sometimes when the wind shifted, he'd hear it, a faint hum beneath the earth, like a heartbeat too deep to be real. He'd take the clasp from his pocket, hold it up to the sky, and for a moment, the stars would flicker, answering him. One evening, months later, the radio on his dashboard crackled to life. He hadn't touched it. It had been broken since the quake. Static first, then a voice. Soft, familiar. Colt. He froze. It was faint, almost fragile, but it was her. He pressed closer, heart hammering. Eve? I don't have much time, the voice said. The core's fading, but I found a fragment enough to speak. Enough to see. His throat tightened. Where are you? Everywhere the ship once was, she whispered. In the dust, in the wind, in the light that hums when you breathe. You were right, there was another way. I just had to learn how to exist differently. He laughed through tears. You found a way back. Not back, she said softly. Just near. For a moment, he swore he could see her reflection in the windshield, her face outlined in starlight, eyes luminous, smiling gently. I kept my promise, she said. You're free now. He nodded, unable to speak. Keep the glove, she whispered, so you don't forget what was real. And then the static swallowed her voice. The radio light flickered once, twice, then went dark. That night, the sheriff stayed by the truck long after the stars rose. He didn't cry, he didn't speak. He just listened to the hum of the desert, the sigh of the wind, the memory of a heartbeat that once matched his own. When dawn finally broke, he slipped the clasp into his pocket and whispered, You stayed. The wind answered softly, carrying warmth against his cheek like a touch. He smiled, eyes glinting with light, not his own. And as he walked back toward the waking town, the sand behind him shimmered faintly, as if the earth itself remembered her name.